Meanwhile, Republican lawmakers will be voting today to elect a Speaker of the House. This morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan and Louisiana Congressman Steve Scalise made their cases during last night's candidate forum. Scalise and Jordan both joining me this week, explaining why they are the right person to take the gavel. Watch.
I think I'm the one candidate who can unite our conference and then go tell the American people what we're doing and why it matters to them, why it's important to their family, to their community, to their small business, why it's important what we're doing for our country.
I've got a long history of bringing people together, uniting Republicans, focusing on the issues that we've got to do to address the things we came here to do. I've had a history of building coalitions, uniting people to focus on getting those things done, getting Congress working again, and doing it quickly.
Joining me right now is South Carolina Congressman Russell Fry. He's a member of the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. He's also the GOP freshman class president. Congressman, thanks very much for being here this morning. Have you decided who you're endorsing or supporting for the Speaker role?
Absolutely. I came out this week in support of Jim Jordan. He's my committee chairman. I think he'd make a fantastic speaker. But I think at the end of the day, House Republicans are committed. Either one of these candidates, I think, is suitable for the job. For me personally, I think Chairman Jordan has done an excellent job of guiding the Judiciary Committee. When you see him behind the scenes, guiding even freshman members like me, setting up a path to make sure that we're effective in our districts, I think that's what the American people want. And in a time when we don't have the Senate, we don't have the White House, we don't even have the agencies or the mainstream media, but we have the American people. People trust Jim Jordan, and he can lasso that or harness that wind to provide for our sales. I think he'd make an excellent speaker.
Well, look, he's the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. You're on that committee. You're also on oversight. You've been investigating the Biden family for influence peddling, charges of bribery. Where do those investigations stand in the middle of all of this news and a war on Israel? And who would become chairman of Judiciary should Jordan get it, the Speaker role?
I don't know who would become chairman of Judiciary. I do know that the staff is continuing to work on this. If you saw yesterday, America First Legal had a bombshell report, 30,000 emails with the National Archives related to Hunter Biden, related to Jim Biden, related to Rosemont Seneca. Maria, they're not just discussing the weather. What do these 30,000 emails contain? That was a great victory for America First Legal.
So you think these investigations continue regardless?
I think they do. I think committee staff, certainly people who are on the committee, they're very much engaged in the space. And so, you know, we need to go about the business of electing a speaker. We need to go about the business of dealing with Iran and with the Israel situation. And then we need to continue our focus on these investigations because they're turning really some incredible sunlight into something that has been very cloudy for too long.
Yeah.
So the work will continue, but first we must elect a speaker.
Well, Kevin McCarthy was leading the charge on these investigations. What did he say last night? I mean, there were reports he told you and your colleagues not to renominate him for the House Speaker. Some Republicans are still holding out hope that he will once again be in the race. What did he say last night?
That was pretty much it, which was we have two fine gentlemen here that are running for Speaker. Either one of them is well suited for the Speaker's gavel, and House Republicans need to select that Speaker and then go about the business of governing and getting back to work. I think he was very clear on that, even to his most ardent supporters.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any wiggle room for interpretation, if you will, on what he said last night.
Okay, let's talk about the war on Israel. I spoke with former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo yesterday. Here's the Secretary.
If you have $6 billion inbound, you're going to go buy yourself whatever it is you want to go buy. And so the administration is lying. They're gaslighting the world, saying that this $6 billion isn't going to fall into the hands of terrorists and benefit them. We had stripped the Iranians of their capacity to move crude oil around the world. They had less than $5 billion in foreign exchange reserves when we left office. They have over $60 billion of foreign exchange reserves. They are a wealthy, flush nation because the Biden administration just simply refused to enforce the sanctions that they're legally required to do. So put aside the $6 billion, it's a fraud there, but $20–30 billion in sanctions relief, millions of barrels a day of Iranian oil on the market profiting to the Islamic Republic of Iran. They are laughing at the United States because we have in fact provided them the capital that allows them to expand their terror regime and build out their nuclear weapons program.
So what about that, Congressman? Are we going to see any change in terms of foreign policy here? The president is facing criticism again this morning because last night when he made remarks about Israel and all the support that the U.S. is giving Israel, not once did he mention Iran.
No, I think you're exactly right. I think he had an opportunity yesterday to provide strength and clarity on U.S. foreign policy, particularly as it pertains to Iran, and he did not do that. There are a lot of questions that I have and other members have and have had about this $6 billion. Look, money is fungible. People can move these things around all the time, but when you're constantly pumping up the Palestinians, when you're constantly doing things on the world stage, as the Secretary talked about with oil, that provides an opportunity. We know this is common knowledge. We know that Iran funds Hamas, Iran funds Hezbollah. Why would we want to give them that opportunity to continue to do that with our foreign policy?
So today you're going to be voting on the speaker. What's the priority once you get the speaker in place? Is it an emergency package for Israel? Is it the Fiscal Responsibility Act spending levels, Ukraine money, U.S., Mexico, and deficit commission? Is this all components of the deal? How do you see it?
I think first and foremost, we need to have a resolution on Israel. What are we doing to support our greatest ally? We need to be very resolute in that. I'm not in favor of commingling issues like Ukraine with that. I think that House Republicans are vehemently overall opposed to commingling those issues. But we need to support our biggest ally, Israel, and then we go about the business of getting back to work.
All right, we will leave it there, Congressman. We'll be watching your work. Thanks very much for being here this morning.